very good Wednesday morning to you. And it's a very, very chilly Wednesday morning here in Manchester. In fact, the last few days we haven't got above 0, so winter has definitely set in. What I want to talk about today is kind of a reply to a video that I saw from Simon Crane. Simon was kind of asking the question, amongst a couple of other things on his video, if somebody came along and gave us £5,500 in cash, or about £7,000 in dollars or whatever, and said, right, you can now go out and you can buy whatever watch you want. And his question was, would we, as watch buyers, would we go out and buy what everybody would assume we would buy, which would be perhaps a Rolex subby, or would we even consider a Grand Seiko? So those were your two choices. And he came to the conclusion that kind of most of us would fall on the predictable side of the fence and go down the route of a Rolex. And I think the reason he was talking about this is because he was referring to the potential, this snobbery thing that's going on, he said, right now, where people wanted to be seen to be advocates of Grand Seiko, their prestige line. And he said quite openly that he falls in that group of people. He wants to be seen as an advocate and a preferrer of Grand Seiko to a lot of the other prestigious brands out there, especially Rolex. So I thought what I would do is give you a little bit of background where Seiko are concerned, and at the end of the video tell you on which side of the fence I would fall. So if I'm teaching some of you to kind of suck eggs where Seiko is concerned, forgive me, but hopefully the information I'm going to give is going to be quite interesting, and hopefully the video won't be too long so you won't get bored. So basically, Seiko, as we know them, was formed in the Ginza area of Tokyo in Japan back in 1881 by a guy called Kintaro Hattori. Now, Kintaro Hattori was by trade a jeweler, and he set up a shop under his name, K. Katori Jewelry, in that area, just I guess producing necklaces and brooches and whatever else for the general public in the area in which he had his business and lived. 11 years later, in 1892, he started producing clocks. Now, at that point, you're thinking, of course, well, it's going to be a logical thing that he's going to move on to watches, which he does, but not quite yet. Something you might not know at that particular point in time, he decided to change his company name a little bit from K. Hattori Jewelry to a brand called Seiko. So it's kind of the name we're all familiar with, Seiko, with SHA on the end, so Seiko. And the rough translation from the Japanese to English of that particular name is the House of Exquisite Workmanship. So that kind of shows us as lovers of watches that even back then he was focused on making high quality products for us and the people of just Japan at the time to buy to keep time in their house. From the period where he was solely making watches, he then discovered that the demand was arising for people to have the availability of having an instrument with them so that they could tell the time during the working day. So obviously they knew what time to get up, go to work, come home, and so on and so forth. So the watches, as you would expect, arrived in 1924. So from 1924 all the way up to the present day, the development of his timepieces, whether they be pocket watches, wrist watches, and going through the whole gamut of what we know Seiko as the company can do now, have developed. Where Seiko are concerned, and again, this might be something you don't know about them, is that they are one of the few watchmakers on the planet who actually do everything in-house. So, I mean, if you might have thought that only the real prestige brands, you know, your Vacherons and your Pateks and even Rolex, those were the only people who did everything in-house. No, Seiko do actually everything in-house, and that doesn't matter whether it's dials, fingers, cases, but they also do the oscillators for their digital range. They also develop the solar cells for their solar watches. They develop and manufacture their kinetic movements themselves, and as if that's not enough, they even manufacture some of the lubrication oils that they actually put in their mechanical movements. So it's truly a complete in-house manufacturing base. Now we're all aware that we hear this phrase thrown out there such a lot. Yes, but this particular watch has an in-house movement. Well, we also know that the so-called in-house movement, all it is a company's variation on an already existing movement. So you know, you'll get a lot of what are called in-house movements, which are essentially variations on a theme from a standard ETA 2893 or something like that. Obviously, over the years, Seiko have gone through many changes. They've gone through the period where they were the Bond watch. Yeah, back in the 1970s, Roger Moore, as Bond, wore both digital Seikos and also analog mechanical Seikos as the Bond watch. So Seiko had their time in the sunshine as being the watch of choice for the world's favourite secret agent. And now, of course, they've moved on in technology, going through the phases of solar, which I think is probably a technology we will see more and more of from many companies. Kinetic, which is a very clever movement, and also their high-end prestigious brand, Grand Seiko. Now, the question is that if tradition, and using the phrase I hate, but I'll use it here, horological history is important to we as the watch buyers of the world, then since 1881 in effect, and I know that 1892 was the actual first production date of a clockwork mechanism, Seiko have got a lot of history. I mean, a lot of history. So why do we not consider Seiko as being a real worthy, top-of-the-line horological machine production house? Because where Grand Seiko are concerned, and this is where I'll tell you where I fall on that kind of thing. If somebody came along and gave me $5,500 or $7,000 and said, there you go, you can now go out and buy whatever you want for that, I wouldn't buy a Grand Seiko. Now let me tell you why. I am a fan of Seiko. I've owned Seikos throughout my watch collecting life. Back in the 70s, I had a wonderful, in fact, I had a couple of wonderful Seiko digital watches, which one was solar powered, the other one had an alarm, and I thought that was like being James Bond when my digital watch had an alarm on it. You know, you don't even think about that in about 1978 or 79 when I bought it. I've still got my Seiko Pogue, my beautiful automatic yellow sunshine dial chronograph, which I absolutely love with a passion, and I've had that since 1979. It is delightful. So why wouldn't I buy a Grand Seiko? Well, one, they're not cheap, and two, in my head, they're still a Seiko. In my view, you can go down to the £200 or £300 mark and get maybe a Couture range. You know, maybe you might have to pay a bit more than that, £400, £450, $600 for one of the Couture range or a Spatura range or something like that. They are brilliant watches and great value for money, and aesthetically pleasing as well. And I have problems moving away from kind of the £500 quality to the thousands of pounds that you have to spend to get a Grand Seiko. In my head, you are still getting a Seiko. So would I necessarily buy a Rolex? Well, no, not really. Not because I own two, but there are other pieces out there that I might want to experience. You know, maybe a Panerai Luminor or something like that. Something that is a little bit left field, that is a little bit of a Marmite watch. And if you don't know what a Marmite watch is something you either love or hate, because you either love or hate Marmite, which is a spread you can buy here in Britain if you don't know what Marmite is. So, as I say, this is kind of my answer to Simon Crane. If somebody gave me that money, would I buy a Grand Seiko? No, I wouldn't. Not because I've got anything against Seiko. I think Seiko are a great brand, and I'm sure that Grand Seiko have the quality to compete against anything else. But there are other more established, more historic brands, perhaps, that I can buy for the same kind of money, even pre-owned, that I might want to experience, that I might want to see in my watch winder. Not because I want to impress anybody else, because I like the thought of perhaps having a Patek on my wrist, or a Panerai on my wrist, or whatever I can get for that kind of money. I'm sure there are things out there that I can obtain for that kind of cash, rather than the two choices given by Simon, either a Rolex or a Grand Seiko. So let me know what you think about this. You know, if you were given the choice, if you've seen Simon's video, where would you fall? Would you say, you know, all my life all I've wanted to do is buy a Rolex, or all my life all I've wanted to do, you know, is buy an Omega Globemaster, or whatever it is? Or, you know, would you think about taking the step towards Seiko, or Grand Seiko, for the same kind of money? Let me know what you think, because this is important. I mean, there's a lot of collectors out there who will be concerned about what other people think about your collection. I personally don't care. My collection is for me. I like what I wear. I keep everything I buy. Even if I don't wear it, I keep it, because everything that I've bought means something to me, in effect that I've had to save for everything I've bought. So it was an achievement to me. And it doesn't matter whether that watch was, as I've said before in many of my videos, £60, £600 or £6,000. It doesn't matter. I've had to save for it, so I do keep it. So let me know what your views are. Let me know if you didn't know about the history of Seiko, or Seikosha as they used to be known. I thought that was a great name. I was surprised they didn't keep that. I thought that was a good little point. So for now, that's it, people. Thank you very much indeed for continued support. Thank you very much for some of the great comments I've had in the last few days. Absolutely brilliant, and especially the ones about the haters and the trolls in this great community of ours. As always, give this a thumbs up if you like it. Share it around. By all means, press that subscribe button, which I think is down here. And for now, I shall speak to you all again very soon. Bye-bye.